Alexander Grant stared at the message on his screen. His office on Earth was quiet except for the soft hum of the air system. The message from Earth's united government was marked urgent. The Galactic Council needed Earth to attend an emergency session. Grant rubbed his tired eyes. At 58, he had seen many crises come and go. 20 years as a military commander and now 10 as Earth's top diplomat had left lines on his face and gray in his dark hair. "They never call us unless things are bad," he muttered to himself. His communicator buzzed. Samantha Wells, his aide for the past 5 years, appeared on the screen. "I'm guessing you got the council message too," she asked. "Just reading it now. What have you heard?" Samantha's expression was serious. "Reports from the outer systems. The Krell have destroyed 3 mining outposts in the past week. The council can't ignore it anymore." Grant nodded. The Krell, a species as ancient as they were mysterious. Since humans had joined the galactic community 25 years ago, the Krell had remained distant, occasionally taking resources from uninhabited planets, but never directly attacking anyone. Until now. "How soon can the Artemis be ready?" Grant asked. "Captain Miller says 6 hours. I've already started packing your things." Grant smiled. Samantha was always 2 steps ahead. Young, brilliant, with short blonde hair and a mind sharper than most military AIs, she had become indispensable to him. "What would I do without you, Wells?" "Probably miss every important meeting," she replied with a smile. "I'll meet you at the launch pad at 1800 hours. The screen went dark. Grant stood and walked to the window. Outside, New Washington sprawled beneath him, rebuilt after the last war. Humans had nearly destroyed themselves before looking to the stars. Now they were part of something bigger, though most species still viewed them with suspicion. Grant's thoughts drifted to his wife, Karen, and their daughter, who had died in the last war. Their loss had pushed him from military to diplomacy. He wanted to build peace, not wage war. But sometimes peace required strength. 6 hours later, Grant boarded the Artemis. Unlike the massive ships of other council species, human vessels were smaller, faster, and more adaptable. Captain Susan Miller greeted him on the bridge. "Ambassador Grant, welcome aboard. We'll reach Centauride Prime in 3 days." "Thank you, Captain. Any new developments?" "Nothing good. 2 more attacks reported. The Council is in panic mode." Grant nodded. The Council, with representatives from 27 species, rarely agreed on anything. Most would want to appease the Krell, give them what they wanted to avoid conflict. It was the safer choice for ancient civilizations that hadn't seen real war in thousands of years. As the Artemis broke orbit, Grant's secure channel activated. The blue face of Counselor Zorak appeared. The Veldari were one of the few species that had welcomed humans openly. "Alexander, my friend," Zorak's translated voice sounded worried. "I'm glad you're coming." "What's happening, Zorak?" "The real story, not the official one." The Veldari's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of distress. "The Council is divided. High Counselor Xenta is pushing for territorial concessions to the Krell. Many support this. And you don't." "The Krell don't want territory, Alexander. They want everything. I studied their patterns. These attacks are just the beginning." Grant felt a chill despite the ship's warm air. "What aren't you telling me?" Zorak leaned closer to the screen. "Be careful who you trust at the Council. Some have already chosen their side, and it's not with the living species of this galaxy." The transmission ended abruptly. Grant stared at the empty screen, then at the stars outside the ship window. The journey to Centauride Prime would be quick, but he had a feeling the real journey was just beginning. Samantha entered the bridge, carrying data tablets. "Ambassador, I've prepared the council briefings." Grant turned to her, his expression grim. "Better prepare for something else, Wells. I think we're heading into a storm." The Artemis docked at Centauri Prime's orbital station 3 days later. Grant and Samantha stood at the viewport, taking in the sight of the massive structure. Unlike Earth's practical designs, the Galactic Council headquarters was built to impress. Crystal spires reached toward the stars, while ships from dozens of species moved around it like busy insects. "Remember," Grant said to Samantha as they prepared to disembark, "we're still outsiders here. 25 years is nothing to species that measure their history in thousands of years." Samantha nodded, straightening her blue diplomatic uniform. "They see us as children playing with dangerous toys." "Dangerous children," Grant corrected. "They fear us as much as they dismiss us." They stepped onto the station and were met not by the usual diplomatic escort, but by a single Taurian representative. The tall, four-armed alien gave a formal bow. "Ambassador Grant, I am Krell, assistant to the Taurian delegation." Your normal escort was unavailable. Grant exchanged glances with Samantha. The Taurians were one of Earth's few allies in the Council. "Thank you for meeting us, Krell. Is Ambassador Vorn available?" The Taurian gestured for them to follow. "Ambassador Vorn wishes to speak with you privately before the Council session begins." As they walked through the grand hallways, Grant noticed the stares from other species, some curious, others hostile. A group of Pellerin delegates whispered among themselves as the humans passed. "The Council has been in closed session for 2 days," Krell explained. "The Krell attacks have everyone on edge." "Unfortunate that you share a name with our adversaries," Grant commented. The Taurian's outer eyelids blinked, a coincidence that has not improved my popularity lately. They arrived at the Taurian embassy, where Ambassador Vorn waited. Unlike his assistant, Vorn was older, his skin a deeper shade of bronze, with ceremonial markings on all 4 of his arms. "Alexander Grant," Vorn said warmly. "Always good to see Earth's most sensible representative." They clasped hands in the human way, something Vorn had learned years ago. "The situation is worse than reported," Vorn said once they were seated. "The Krell have attacked 15 outposts, not just the 5 officially acknowledged. 3 were completely destroyed." "Why hide the true numbers?" Samantha asked. "Fear," said a new voice. A small, silver-skinned figure entered from a side door. Professor Lin of the Novan species stood barely 4 feet tall, with large eyes adapted to the dim light of her home world. "Professor," Grant nodded respectfully. The Novans were known for their vast knowledge and scientific achievements. Many council members believe that acknowledging the full scope of Krell attacks will cause panic, Lin explained. Others fear it will force a military response they do not want. Vorn leaned forward. "The council session begins in 2 hours. High Councilor Xenta will propose a formal agreement with the Krell. They will be given mining rights to 30 systems in exchange for peace." 30 systems. Grant was shocked. "Some of those must be inhabited." 6 are, Professor Lin confirmed. "The plan includes population relocation." "They're going to abandon billions of people," Samantha said quietly. Grant's jaw tightened, and Earth's position in all this. "That's why we wanted to speak privately," Vorn said. "Your government sent instructions ahead of your arrival. Earth is expected to support the Council decision." "Those can't be my real orders," Grant said. Samantha touched her tablet. "They're not. Our orders are to assess and report back." Grant stood and walked to the window. Outside, the great council chamber dominated the view. "We have information you need to see," Professor Lin said, placing a data crystal on the table. "The Krell aren't interested in mining rights or territory. Their attacks follow a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" Grant asked. "Consumption," Vorn answered grimly. "They strip planets of specific elements, leaving them uninhabitable. This isn't about borders or politics. It's about survival." Grant picked up the crystal. "How many council members know this?" "Not enough," Lin said. "And some who know don't care." The meeting room's lights dimmed slightly as a station-wide announcement echoed. "All council delegates report to the main chamber in 1 hour." Grant looked at his 2 allies. "It seems we have work to do before this session begins." Grant found a secure room in the Earth Embassy to contact home. The space was small but completely shielded from any listening devices. He activated the quantum communicator and waited for the connection to Earth. Admiral Patricia Coleman's face appeared on the screen. Her expression was stern, her gray hair pulled back tightly. "Ambassador Grant, you've arrived safely, I see." "Admiral, I need to know what Earth really knows about the Krell situation." Coleman's eyes narrowed. "What makes you think we know more than the Council?" "Because we always do," Grant replied. "Humans haven't survived this long by being trusting." A hint of a smile crossed Coleman's face. "This line is secure." Triple-checked by Samantha herself. Coleman nodded and pressed something off-screen. "For the past 5 years, Earth Defense has been studying the Krell. We suspected they would become a threat long before the Council did." The screen filled with images of Krell ships and data about their movements. Grant studied the patterns, noticing they matched what Professor Lin had shown him. "The Krell aren't simply expanding," Coleman continued. "They're harvesting. Each attacked planet shows the same pattern of element extraction, particularly rare minerals used in their technology. The Council plans to give them 30 systems," Grant said. Coleman's expression hardened. "That won't satisfy them. It will only buy time while they prepare for more." "What's our military readiness?" Grant asked. "Official or actual?" "I need the truth, Admiral." Coleman leaned forward. "Officially, Earth maintains a defensive fleet as allowed by Council treaties. Unofficially, we've been preparing since first contact with the Krell." "Preparing how?" "We've developed weapons and shields specifically designed to counter Krell technology. We've also positioned hidden defense platforms throughout human space." Grant raised an eyebrow. "The Council would call that an act of war." "We call it survival," Coleman replied. "Commander John Martinez is already in the Centauri system with our response fleet. Officially, they're conducting training exercises." "How many ships?" "Enough to make a difference." While Grant spoke with Admiral Coleman, Samantha was in the Council archives. As a diplomatic aide, she had access to historical records, though some needed higher clearance. She searched for previous encounters with the Krell. "Find anything?" asked a voice behind her. Samantha turned to see Professor Lin. The small Novan moved silently despite the archive's hard floor. "Not much," Samantha admitted. "Most records of Krell interactions are restricted." "Try searching for planetary abandonment cases instead," Lin suggested. "Look back 300 years. Samantha entered the new search. Dozens of results appeared, showing planets that had been evacuated or declared uninhabitable. These all show similar mineral depletion patterns, Samantha realized, scanning the data. But none mentioned the Krell. "The Council renamed them each time," Lin explained. "Different species, different threats, but always the same pattern." "They've been hiding this for centuries," Samantha said, shocked. "Some Council members believe appeasement is the only way," Lin said quietly. "Give the Krell what they want, and they might leave you for last." Later, Grant met with Commander Martinez in a private docking bay. Martinez was younger than Grant, with broad shoulders and a direct gaze. His unofficial uniform bore no insignia. "Your ships are ready?" Grant asked. 20 vessels, our best technology. Officially, we don't exist." Grant looked at the data on Krell movements. "The Council will vote tomorrow to surrender those 30 systems. And Earth's position. That depends on what I say in the Council chamber." Grant's expression was determined. "But I won't recommend surrender." "The Council won't like that," Martinez warned. "Most species there haven't fought a real war in thousands of years." "Humans have never had that luxury," Grant replied. "We know what it means to fight for survival." Martinez nodded. "My ships await your signal. But once we move, there's no going back." "Sometimes moving forward is the only option," Grant said, looking at the starfield visible through the bay window. "Prepare your crews, Commander. Tomorrow everything changes." The Grand Council chamber was filled with representatives from 27 species. The room was a massive circle with rising tiers of seats. At the center stood a speaking platform that glowed softly. High Counselor Xenta, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and six-fingered hands, called the session to order. Grant sat between Samantha and Ambassador Vorn. He noticed many delegates avoided looking at the human section. News of Earth's reluctance to support the appeasement plan had spread quickly. Honored representatives, Xenta began, her voice translated through the chamber systems. We face a grave situation. The Krell advances have accelerated. We must act decisively to preserve peace in our galaxy. Grant listened as Xenta outlined the proposed agreement. 30 star systems would be designated as Krell territory. Any inhabited planets would be evacuated within 6 months. In exchange, the Krell would sign a non-aggression pact with the Council. Many species spoke in support of the plan. The Pelleran representative called it a small price for continued peace. The Gandari suggested adding 5 more systems as a gesture of goodwill. Grant felt his anger rising, but kept his face calm. Samantha placed a data tablet in front of him. It showed the evacuation numbers. Over 11 billion beings would be forced from their homes. Xenta scanned the chamber. Are there any objections before we move to a formal vote? The room was quiet. Most species had already indicated their support. Earth requests the floor, Grant said, his voice firm. A murmur ran through the chamber. Xenta's expression showed brief annoyance before she nodded. The representative from Earth may speak. Grant walked to the central platform. The light illuminated him as he looked around at the assembled delegates. Honored council members, he began. For 25 years, humans have been part of this galactic community. We have learned much from your ancient civilizations, but today I fear we have all forgotten something important. He touched a control, and images appeared around the chamber. They showed planets before and after Krell attacks. The devastation was clear. These are not simply mining operations, Grant continued. The Krell don't want territory. They want consumption. They strip planets of resources and leave them dead. Angry voices rose from several delegations. Xenta raised her hands for quiet. Ambassador Grant, these images are not part of our official record. Because they have been deliberately hidden, Grant replied. Earth has conducted its own analysis of Krell activity over the past 5 years. Professor Lin of the Novans has found council records going back 3 centuries showing the same pattern. Lin stood from her seat, facing the angry glares of many council members. The Krell have been consuming worlds for hundreds of years, Grant continued. Each time, this council has given them what they wanted, hoping they would stop. They never have. What alternative do you propose? Asked the Pelleran representative. The Krell military power far exceeds our combined forces. Grant looked at the delegate directly. That assessment is based on outdated information. Earth, along with the Taurians and Novans, has been developing defensive capabilities. We can fight. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Military development beyond approved levels violated council treaties. You admit to treaty violations? Xenta asked, her voice cold. I admit to preparing for survival, Grant answered. Something every species here should be doing. He pressed another control. A map of Krell expansion appeared, with projections showing future movements. If we give them these 30 systems, they will take 30 more next year, and more after that. There is only one message the Krell will understand. Grant's voice grew stronger, filling the chamber. It's time for battle. Not for pride, not for territory, but for survival. Complete silence fell over the room. Many delegates looked shocked or outraged. A few showed thoughtful expressions. Earth will not support this agreement, Grant said firmly. We propose instead a defense alliance, open to all who wish to join. We will share our technology and strategies. Together, we can defend our worlds. The Gandari delegation stood and walked out of the chamber. Others followed. But some remained, watching Grant with new interest in their eyes. Xenta's voice was tight with anger. This council session is suspended until tomorrow. We will consider Earth's Proposal. As Grant returned to his seat, Samantha whispered, "That went about as well as we expected." "Actually," Grant replied quietly, "it went better. They didn't immediately throw us out." Grant and Samantha barely made it back to the Earth Embassy before the reactions began. Their communication system was flooded with messages from various species. Most were angry. Some were curious. A few were supportive. "High Counselor Xenta is demanding your removal," Samantha said, scanning through the messages. "She says your speech was an act of aggression against Council unity." Grant looked out the window at the massive Council building. Unity built on surrender isn't worth preserving. A soft chime announced a visitor. Ambassador Vorn entered with Professor Lin and 3 representatives Grant didn't recognize. "Alexander," Vorn said, "these are delegates from the Meridian, Solari, and ecosystems." Grant greeted each with the appropriate gestures for their species. The Solari representative, a tall female with feathered skin named Kira, spoke first. "Your words in council were dangerous, Ambassador Grant, and perhaps necessary. The Krell took one of our outer colonies last year," said Tal, the Meridian delegate. His rock-like skin showed signs of age. "The council recorded it as a mining accident." Grant gestured for them all to sit. "I meant what I said. Earth is prepared to lead a defensive alliance." "Many will not join you," Professor Lin warned. "Fear runs deep in the council." "But not in all of us," the Eco's representative said. His name was Dren, and his species resembled Earth insects, with multifaceted eyes. "We have been building our defenses in secret, like you." Before Grant could respond, Samantha received an urgent message. Her face showed concern. "Admiral Coleman is calling. Priority 1. Grant activated the secure screen. Coleman's image appeared, her expression grim. "Ambassador, we have a situation. A Krell fleet has been detected moving toward the Taurian home system." The room fell silent. Vorn stood, his 4 arms tense with alarm. "How many ships?" Grant asked. 43. Larger than any previous attack force. Grant looked at the delegates in the room. "This is no coincidence. They know what we discussed in council. They have informants," Kira said. "Perhaps even council members." Grant turned back to Coleman. "What's our response capability?" "Commander Martinez has moved the Earth fleet to intercept. But even with our advanced weapons, 20 ships against 43 are poor odds." Vorn stepped forward. "The Taurian Defense Force can contribute 12 vessels. The Novans have no military ships," Professor Lin said, "but we have defensive technology we can share." The other 3 delegates exchanged glances. Dren spoke for them all. "We each have small defense forces, perhaps 5 ships each. Not designed for major combat, but better than nothing." Grant did the math quickly. 20 human ships, 12 Taurian, and 15 more from the other species. 47 total against 43 Krell vessels. "Not great odds, but not impossible," Grant said. "Admiral, coordinate with Commander Martinez. We need to organize these forces quickly." "There's something else you should know," Coleman said. "We've detected unusual energy readings from the Krell fleet. They're using technology we haven't seen before. Can our defenses handle it?" "We don't know." After the call ended, Lisa Hendricks arrived at the embassy. Earth's top military strategist had traveled separately from Grant. Her presence had been kept secret until now. "I hear we're forming a coalition," she said, entering the room. Her dark skin contrasted with her silver uniform. "Good thing I brought our tactical systems." She placed a device on the table. It projected a detailed map of the Taurian system and the approaching Krell fleet. "The Krell will reach Taurian space in 14 hours, Hendricks explained. "If we're going to stop them, we need to coordinate now." Grant looked at the assembled representatives. "This is happening faster than I expected, but the principle remains the same. We stand together, or we fall separately." Dren's insect-like features couldn't show human emotions, but his voice was firm. "The Eco ships will join your fleet, as will the Solari," Kira added, "and the Meridian." Tal confirmed. Grant nodded. Then let's get to work. We have a battle to prepare for, and billions of lives depend on the outcome. As the delegates began coordinating their forces, Samantha moved closer to Grant. The Council won't approve this alliance, she said quietly. We're not asking for approval, Grant replied. We're doing what's necessary for survival. Earth's moon became the headquarters for the new coalition. Grant stood in the command center, watching as ships from 5 different species moved into formation on the large display. The base had been built in secret years ago, hidden beneath the lunar surface. Fleet Commander Eric Russell entered the room. He was tall with dark skin and a serious expression that rarely changed. Ambassador Grant, all coalition ships are in position. The command systems are integrated as well as can be expected. As well as can be expected, Grant asked. Russell shrugged. 5 different species, 5 different technologies. We've never trained together. It's not ideal. We work with what we have, Commander, Grant replied. Samantha approached with her tablet. The Krell fleet has changed course. They're moving faster than predicted. Arrival at Taurian space in 8 hours, not 14. Grant frowned. They know we're organizing a defense. Almost certainly, Russell agreed, which means they have someone feeding them information. The door opened again as Lisa Hendricks arrived with representatives from each coalition species. They gathered around the central table. Our first simulations show problems, Hendricks began without preamble. Our ships use different communication systems, different tactics, even different measurement standards. Can we fix this in 8 hours? Asked Kira of the Solari. Not completely, Hendricks admitted, but Samantha has been working on something that might help. All eyes turned to Samantha, who looked slightly uncomfortable with the attention. I've developed a translation matrix for our tactical systems, she explained, activating a display. It won't make us perfect, but it will allow our ships to communicate and coordinate. Show us, Russell ordered. Samantha ran a simulation. Ships from all 5 species moved in coordinated patterns, sharing targeting data and defensive positions. It's not perfect, she said, but it's better than fighting separately. Dren of the Ecos studied the simulation. Our pilots train for individual combat, not group tactics. Human military history shows us that coordinated forces almost always defeat superior numbers, Russell explained. We need to fight as one fleet, not 5 separate ones. They spent the next hours running battle simulations. Some were successful. Many were not. The coalition ships struggled to work together effectively. During a brief break, Grant received an urgent message from Earth. A scout ship near the edge of Taurian space had been destroyed. Its final transmission showed the Krell fleet was larger than initially detected, 60 ships, not 43. Grant shared this news with the coalition leaders. We should retreat, Tal of the Meridians said immediately. We cannot win against such numbers. If we retreat, the Taurian homeworld falls, Grant replied. And after that, the Krell will keep coming. What do you propose? Kira asked. Russell and Hendricks exchanged glances. We have one advantage, Russell said. The Krell don't know our weapons capabilities. Human ships carry technology specifically designed to counter Krell systems. How? Dren asked. You've never fought them before. We've been studying them for years, Hendricks explained. Their energy signatures, shield frequencies, weapon systems. We developed countermeasures based on our observations. Will it be enough? Vorn asked. Honestly, we don't know, Grant admitted, but it's our best chance. A young human officer interrupted with a message. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity from Centauri Prime. Multiple ships are leaving the Council station. The display showed several diplomatic vessels departing. They're running, Samantha said quietly. Or they know something we don't, Grant replied. Another alert sounded. A message from Admiral Coleman appeared on the main screen. The Krell have accelerated again. New estimate puts them at Taurian space in 3 hours. They've also changed formation. They appear to be preparing for immediate attack. Grant looked at the coalition representatives. "We're out of time for planning. We need to deploy now." "Some of our ships aren't ready," Kira warned. "None of us are truly ready," Grant said. "But we fight anyway. Because the alternative is surrender. And humans don't surrender when survival is at stake." Russell nodded. "I'll prepare the fleet for immediate departure." As the coalition leaders moved to action, Grant looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Krell fleet. They were about to face an enemy with superior numbers and technology. The odds were not good, but sometimes, Grant thought, you had to make your own odds. The coalition fleet reached the edge of Taurian space just as the Krell arrived. Grant watched from the command center on the lunar base. The main screen showed both fleets clearly. The Krell ships were larger, their dark hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They moved in perfect formation, like a single organism rather than 60 separate vessels. "They're not slowing down," Russell observed. "No communication attempts, no warnings." "They never communicate," Hendricks said. "In all recorded encounters, they attack without warning." Grant studied the tactical display. "Commander Russell, are our ships in position?" "As well as they can be," Russell replied. "Formation Alpha." "As we practiced. Human ships at the front, Taurian vessels protecting the flanks, others providing support." Grant opened a channel to all coalition ships. "This is Ambassador Grant to all vessels. You know why we're here. The Krell have consumed worlds for centuries while the Council looked away. Today, we stand together. Follow Commander Russell's orders. Trust your training. Protect each other. We fight not just for the Taurian homeworld, but for all our peoples." He nodded to Russell, who took over. "All ships, weapons hot, defense systems at maximum. Prepare for engagement." The Krell fleet suddenly accelerated. Their front line of ships fired simultaneously. Bright energy beams cut through space toward the coalition vessels. "Evasive maneuvers," Russell ordered. Most coalition ships moved in time. 3 smaller vessels from the Meridian forces weren't fast enough. The beams hit them directly. 2 exploded immediately. The third drifted, heavily damaged. "Return fire," Russell commanded. "Target the lead Krell vessels." The human ships fired first. Their weapons looked different from standard Council technology. Instead of energy beams, they fired concentrated pulses that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. The pulses hit the Krell shields. Most Krell ships shrugged off the attack, but 2 showed damage. "It's working," Samantha said, monitoring the battle data. "Our phase-shift weapons are penetrating their shields." The battle intensified quickly. Krell ships moved with frightening coordination, focusing fire on any coalition vessel that showed weakness. 4 more coalition ships were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. "We're taking heavy losses," Russell reported grimly. "Look there." Hendricks pointed to a section of the display. "The Solari ships are drawing Krell fire away from our main force." The Solari vessels, faster but less armored than human ships, were executing rapid maneuvers to distract the Krell. "They're giving us an opening," Russell realized. "Redirect our main battery ships to target Section 17. Human and Taurian heavy weapons ships concentrated fire on the area the Solari had exposed. 3 Krell vessels took direct hits. 1 exploded in a burst of green energy. 2 others dropped out of formation, damage. "First Krell casualties," Samantha announced. The command center staff didn't cheer, but there was a visible release of tension. The battle continued for another hour. The coalition lost 17 ships. The Krell lost 9. It wasn't an even exchange, but it was better than anyone had expected. Then something changed. A massive Krell ship, twice the size of the others, moved to the front of their formation. "Energy spike detected," a technician called out. "It's charging some kind of weapon." "All ships, evasive pattern Delta," Russell ordered urgently. The large Krell ship fired. A wave of energy, not a beam, spread outward. It caught 5 coalition vessels before they could move. All 5 went dark instantly, their systems completely disabled. What was that? Grant demanded. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, but more advanced, Hendricks said, analyzing the data. It didn't destroy the ships, just disable them. They want to capture our technology, Grant realized. They're learning from us. Russell looked grim. They're preparing to fire again. Before the Krell could attack, 3 human ships executed a maneuver no one expected. They accelerated directly toward the large Krell vessel, firing continuously. What are they doing? Kira asked from her position with the Solari command link. Sacrificing themselves, Russell said quietly. 2 of the human ships were destroyed by Krell defensive fire. The third, damaged but still moving, crashed directly into the large Krell vessel's main weapon. The resulting explosion tore through the Krell ship's hull. The Krell flagship is critically damaged, Samantha reported, her voice shaking slightly. The Krell formation suddenly broke apart. Their perfect coordination vanished. After a moment, they began to retreat. They're withdrawing, Russell said, surprised. The Coalition command center was silent as they watched the Krell fleet move away from Taurian space. Did we win? Dren asked, breaking the silence. For now, Grant answered, but they'll be back. And next time, they'll be better prepared for our weapons. So will we, Russell said firmly. And we won't be alone. Grant's communication system chimed. It was a message from Centauri Prime. 6 more species were requesting to join the Coalition. 2 weeks after the battle at Taurian space, the Coalition had grown to 15 species. Their combined fleet now numbered over 100 ships. The lunar base had expanded, with representatives from all member species working together to improve their defenses. Grant stood before the Coalition Leadership Council. The room was filled with beings from across the galaxy, united by a common threat. The Krell have withdrawn to their territory, Grant said, pointing to the star map. But our scouts report they are building new ships and weapons. They will return, stronger than before. Then we must strike first, said Commander Russell. A direct attack on their main production facilities. Murmurs filled the room. Many species still feared offensive action. The Krell homeworld is deep in their territory, Vorn of the Taurians pointed out. We would need to pass through their defensive systems. Which is why I've proposed this plan, Grant said, revealing a detailed mission outline. A small strike force could bypass their main defenses. While our fleet engages their forces here, he pointed to a location near the border. A specialized team will infiltrate their command center. What would this accomplish? Asked a representative from one of the newer Coalition members. Hendricks stepped forward. Our analysis of Krell technology suggests their ships are controlled by a central system. If we can disrupt it even temporarily, their fleet will be vulnerable. Who would lead this strike team? Kira of the Solari asked. I will, Grant said firmly. The room erupted in protests. Russell spoke above the others. Ambassador, you're a diplomat, not a soldier. I'm both, Grant replied. And this mission will require both skills. We need someone who can make decisions that might have diplomatic consequences. After much debate, the plan was approved. The Coalition fleet would engage the Krell in 3 days. The strike team, consisting of Grant, Samantha, and representatives from 4 other species, would use a small stealth vessel to penetrate Krell space. On the day of the mission, Grant stood in the hangar bay looking at the small ship that would carry them. Samantha approached him. Final checks complete. The stealth systems should keep us invisible to Krell sensors. Grant nodded. Any last messages from the council? Just one, Samantha said with a slight smile. High Counselor Xentat demands you return to face charges of treaty violation. I'll add it to my list, Grant replied dryly. The Coalition fleet departed first, hundreds of ships moving toward Krell space in an impressive display of unity. Hours later, the small strike team vessel slipped away quietly, taking a different route. 3 days of tense travel brought them to the heart of Krell territory. The main battle had begun. drawing Krell defenses away from their command center. Grant's team managed to dock with a massive Krell station using technology developed by Professor Lin to mask their presence. Inside the station, they moved carefully through strange corridors. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen, with flowing lines and pulsing surfaces that seemed almost alive. "This way," Samantha whispered, following readings on her device. "The central control should be ahead." They entered a vast chamber filled with swirling energy patterns. In the center floated several Krell beings, their true form visible for the first time. They were not solid like other species, but semi-transparent, their bodies containing swirling particles like miniature galaxies. "They're beautiful," Kira said softly. One of the Krell noticed them. Instead of attacking, it approached slowly. A wave of energy washed over Grant, and suddenly he could hear its thoughts. "You fight well, human. The first to truly challenge us in millennia." Grant stood his ground. "We fight for survival. You leave us no choice." "Survival," the Krell echoed. "That is what drives us as well. Our energy form requires specific elements to maintain cohesion. Without them, we fade to nothing." Understanding dawned on Grant. Your consumption of planets isn't conquest, it's desperation. Yes, Grant made a decision that would change the galaxy. There may be another way, a way where both our peoples survive, but it requires talking, not fighting. The Krell was silent for a moment. No species has offered this before. They only surrendered or died. "Humans are different," Grant said. "We understand fighting for survival, but we also understand finding solutions where everyone lives." 1 month later, Grant stood once more before the Galactic Council. Representatives from all species, including the Krell, were present. "The war is over," Grant announced. "In its place, we have understanding. The Krell need specific elements we can provide through controlled mining. We need peace and security they can help ensure." High Counselor Xenta looked at Grant with new respect. "It seems, Ambassador Grant, that when you said it's time for battle, you ultimately found a path to peace." Grant nodded. "Sometimes you must be ready for war to create the conditions for peace. Humanity learned that lesson long ago." As Grant looked around the chamber at the assembled species, he saw something new in their eyes when they looked at humans. Not just respect, but understanding. Earth was no longer the newcomer. It was the bridge between ancient ways and new possibilities. And that, Grant thought, was a victory worth fighting for.